Hey there, interwebs. I hope you're all doing well. Unfortunately, this video today is going to be one that's coming from, it was originally going to be coming from a place of deep anger, but as I sit here now, ready to film, I am realizing now it's more going to be coming from a place of hurt and a bit of sadness, and hopefully a bit of hope at the end. But the predominant feeling I'm feeling right now is just kind of hurt. And I feel a need to discuss what has happened over the past week, because it is deeply frustrating, angering, and frankly disappointing, the events that have recently occurred. And to give you a clue in on what it's about, surrounding my film Identities, which, as many of you may know already, is the science fiction film that I am currently working on, that is being distributed by Nebula, that is going to be very queer and trans focused, and is being made by a predominantly queer and trans crew, along with many other marginalized folks, including BIPOC and women, behind the scenes and in front of the camera as well. And it's something that I am deeply excited about and proud of, not just for myself, but the amazing work that people have put on for this production. And unfortunately, a situation has recently occurred surrounding the production that has been just deeply angering, and I need to talk about it. And to be clear what the problem is, before we get into the nitty-gritty in just a moment, it is the very, very frustrating, angering, disrespectful, and unprofessional treatment of my film Identities, my independent film Identities, by SAG-AFTRA. But before I get into all of that, something I just want to say right up front, and it'll be kind of obvious why I want to say this up front in just a minute when I get into the meat of what happened, but to be very, very clear, I support the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes against the Hollywood studio system. I support all of the workers, actors, writers, and numerous other artists who are fighting right now against a studio system that refuses to acknowledge their humanity, to be able to allow them to be able to live comfortably, to be able to pursue their passion, their art, their humanity in a way that is comfortable, safe, and enabling of them being able to pursue that passion, and instead manages to take all the money that this labor, that this art, that this passion creates, and often hoard it at the top for the CEOs and executives in charge, who often, I'm not going to say are irrelevant to the process of making films, but are certainly not the heart and soul of it, because the heart and soul is out there right now on the strike line. And I also want to be very clear that I myself personally have been and will continue to be on the strike line. I've shown up a couple times already. I plan on being there numerous more times, and I will continue to be very vocal in my support of the workers, as someone who realizes that their fight is not just a fight for them, but a fight for all of labor and the working class, and is just one element of a larger fight that is going on right now in the United States and the world. And I will also continue to support them, not just by showing up on the line, but with my platform here on YouTube, as well as by trying to follow all of the guidelines that SAG-AFTRA has outlined for influencers that I sort of fall under. And speaking on that, I've already done a video on my secondary channel with WGA writer Bill Wolkoff, where we talked about a lot of the issues pertaining to the strike. I have a video coming out on Monday on my secondary channel also about the strike. And also my podcast, Jumpgate, which is a Babylon 5 Rewatch podcast, will be shifting gears to not be focusing on Babylon 5 while the strike is going on, considering that Babylon 5 is a past production from a struck company at the moment. So I want my current and ongoing and planned continual support of those unions and their fight to be very, very clear before I get into the rest of this video. With that said, unfortunately, the situation that I have been alluding to revolves around the treatment of my production Identities by the bureaucracy and administration at SAG-AFTRA. So to reiterate, like I said, I have been working on a production Identities, which is a honest-to-God passion project of mine. It is a very queer and trans film, but a film about how, many people, not just queer and trans people, many people of many marginal identities, even non-marginalized identities, are never allowed to express ourselves in the systems that try to force us to be a certain way, to exist a certain way. And part of the reason I'm so passionate about this project is not just the story that I get to tell, but the people who are working on it. As I said, it is a cast and crew predominantly made of queer and trans and other marginalized folks. It was an express goal of me and my producer, Dr. Aaron McDonald, to make sure that that was the case. Also, to reiterate, this production is a completely independent production. It has nothing to do with the studio system. It is being funded and distributed by Nebula, which is a streaming service, but a streaming service that is creator-owned, owned by the YouTube creators and the artists that help make it up, as well as the fact that the people who work at Nebula, and I do not speak for them, but I know that they echo this sentiment, are also in huge support of the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Dave, who is the CEO of Nebula, or Standard, I should say, and helps lead Nebula, he has repeatedly been vocal, done videos and podcasts supporting the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes, has donated money as well. So everyone at Nebula supports those strikes. And again, to be very clear, we have no association with the studio system. This is a completely independent production being made. However, that being said, we also knew that as we were entering into production months ago, that these strikes were looming on the horizon. We knew that they were possibly going to be a thing, and we knew that it was going to be a very hectic time in Hollywood for everybody, even those who weren't part of the studio system. Which is why, considering we are using SAG actors, we have many wonderful actors that I am so honored and excited to be working with and have worked with, doing different stuff, prepping for the film, again, following SAG-AFTRA guidelines in that. We knew that we wanted to kind of get ahead of that. So several months ago, and I repeat and reiterate, months ago, we submitted all of our paperwork to SAG-AFTRA as what they qualified as an ultra-low budget production. There's numerous different levels, but the ones that you need to sort of be aware of for this discussion is ultra-low budget production and short production, which is sort of the level right below that. And our production sort of skirted the line of, sort of in between those two levels. The sort of line for between ultra-low budget and short production is, you have to have a $50K budget. If you're above a $50K budget, they consider you ultra low budget. If you have under $50K, it's short, as well as your production being less than 40 minutes, I believe is the line. Our production is literally right in the line of that. My script is literally like right at 40 minutes. We are sort of right under, I believe, and it's very dialogue heavy, which also shortens it down, as well as the fact that our production, considering Nebula is helping to fund us, is under 50K because Nebula is also doing a lot of stuff in-house for us. So again, it's right on the line, and we initially submitted it as an ultra-low budget production months ago. At that time, we were given a business representative from SAG. And apologies that this is going to get very nitty-gritty, but I need to go through the whole story to just tell you how I believe disrespectfully we were treated in a way that I found unprofessional and deeply hurtful on many levels. So apologies for the nitty-gritty, but I think it's very important to the story. But we were given a business representative by SAG. And at that time, we were sort of going through everything with this representative. My producer, Dr. Aaron McDonald, is sending emails back and forth. And basically where we settled at was that we were going to be a short production. We had a letter from Nebula attesting to, our budget and everything like that. We had everything in order. And we were told at that time that to not resubmit as a short production, but to wait until the week of July 26th, which is the week that I'm currently filming this, where we would be adjudicated as a short film project and being given permission to go ahead and film. We were also asked by our representative to not submit any new paperwork unless we were expressly asked to, which included an interim agreement to be able to film during a strike, which a short production does not need, but an ultra-low budget production does. We were asked not to submit that because we were going to be adjudicated as a short film project. If we knew we were going to need to submit that, we would have submitted it literally months ago at the time that the strike started. We would have been more than happy to do that. We were expressly told not to submit any more paperwork and that we would be adjudicated as short that would not require that. So with that all being said, we have gone forward with production, and it has been really, really exciting. I cannot tell you how cool the work that people have done on this film is. Just shout out to, the musicians, the composers that we've been working with. I just had a meeting earlier today about that. Our production designers, our cinematographer, Tamara, just everyone on this production has been so amazing and has just been kicking ass, creating cool stuff. And as a director, it's been such a learning experience to me to learn that part of making film is not, oh, this is Jessie's film, this is Jessie's vision, but to really enable that spirit of collaboration. It's about being the leader who is there to enable other people's artistry and passion, and hope that, I created something that has a strong enough, voice in it that people's artistry and visions and their own sort of creativity sort of adds into it and builds upon it. But that ultimately my job is to facilitate their creativity and fight for their ability to express their creativity, in terms of, fighting against the budget and fighting against, the other systems and forces that we have to go against, time, problem solving, and just doing my best to enable them. And then it's my job and my producer, Dr. Aaron McDonald, to say what's realistically possible and fight for this production on this sort of realistic angle, and this sort of, the nitty-gritty numbers angle, and me as a creative fighting to enable all of them. That is my job, and it's something that has been such a wonderful experience to learn, and just to see and be in meetings with people just excited saying, here's the costumes that I have, here's the cool things that I'm making, the actors that I've been able to work with, and just like Maggie Mae Fish and James Tyson, who I did some rehearsals with in person, and it was just so cool to just see their creativity just coming out. I love this stuff. I am so passionate about this. And so we've been going forward with all of that, following SAG guidelines as well. So we, tamped down rehearsals and things as the strike started, to try and follow their guidelines as best we can, given all the situation. Even when our production may not have even needed to abide by those, we did. So all of that's been going forward. We are now currently 2 weeks out from filming. We were literally planning to film in 2 weeks. And the only thing that we are continually waiting on was approval from SAG. We have had big companies, big groups support us during all of this, even when, I know that they were experiencing a lot of troubles given the strike as well. So I want to be clear that we have been given so much support, even from, individuals to big companies at this point. But we were still waiting to hear from SAG, and we were waiting because we were told not to submit anything, and we were waiting for this date to pass. And given that, what my producer Aaron and I kind of came to the determination of is like, well, we need the SAG approval to be able to move forward. And so we kind of determined that we wanted to have a cutoff date of this Friday, the 28th, today as I'm filming, to say whether or not we were going to be able to go forward with production if we didn't hear from SAG. And the reason for this was severalfold. The most important of which is that, we are hiring a bunch of crew and cast during a strike where money is really tight. And we want to be able to assure them that they have a job. And if they don't have a job, we want to be able to allow them to be able to go and do what they need to do to be able to feed themselves, pay their bills, and things like that. We didn't want to sort of like keep waffling around until the very last minute and then say, oh, we don't have a production. We wanted to be able to be very clear and concise. And we were very clear with SAG about that. And we were very clear with everyone about that fact. We know that productions, have weird things that happen even at the last minute, but this is sort of what we set out, and everyone agreed that this was sort of the best way to be fair and accommodating, and try to give SAG as much time as possible, but also for ourselves, allow our cast and crew to be able to, do what's best for them, especially since they are marginalized folks who often don't get as many chances in this industry. July 26th occurs. That was this past Monday. Hopefully it's July 26th, whatever this past Monday was. Didn't hear anything. So we emailed on Tuesday. Didn't hear anything. We called and emailed on Wednesday. Wednesday evening, and we get an email from our business representative. And at that point, that email said that we had a new business representative, someone we had never spoken to before, and that we were asked to resubmit all of our paperwork. The way it was sort of worded in the email, it made it sound like as if we had not submitted the paperwork, which we had, and my producer, Dr. Aaron McDonald, literally resubmitted all of that paperwork within 30 minutes of receiving that email. It was all the same paperwork that we had already sent in. And it was also spoken about in the email as if we were ultra low budget production. Not even like saying like, oh, we've decided to switch it. There's just like, oh yeah, you're an ultra low budget production, whatever. And it became very clear from that email that our business representative had not done anything, was passing us off to someone else, and it wasn't even fully aware of what our production was anymore, which was very, very frustrating. But we said, okay, what can we do? I emailed our new business rep, explained the situation, explained the urgency. We heard nothing. I tried calling. We heard nothing. And I said, well, now it's Thursday. It is very close to the wire for everything. And I decided, I'm not going to say where I live, but I currently now live within driving distance of Los Angeles. So I drove the 3 hours to Los Angeles that morning to go into SAG's office and just say, hey, what can we do to get this done? And wanting to be very understanding that SAG is dealing with a lot right now. I want to be very clear. We, on every level of this, we are so understanding that SAG is dealing with so much right now and dealing with the strike, dealing with the passing productions, everything. We totally are understanding of that. The thing is, we had our paperwork in 2 months ago, and we followed everything that we were told to do. So we wanted to be understanding of the busyness and hecticness of what's going on, but also the fact that we had been prepared. It's not like we were, last minute coming in and saying, hey, fill out this paperwork for us. So I went into SAG with Trenton, by the way, who is the VP of Content Productions at Nebula, and I want to reiterate right here that everyone at Nebula has been so supportive of this project. And I'm not saying that because Nebula is funding the project or anything like that. Like if they aren't asking me to make this video or anything like that. I'm just saying this because I have felt it that everyone at Nebula has been so supportive of this. Like Trenton was there with me. He was making calls. He was showing up. I'll get further into the story, but he was there for me. And it was seen and it was felt that Nebula is just behind this production 100%. And I'm not saying that for anyone's benefit other than just the truth. And we went in and we spoke to our business representative's boss, who came out and spoke to us personally. And we were like, look, we understand the situation. We know you're dealing with a lot. What can we do to, get us approval by tomorrow? Because we're hoping to get it done by tomorrow. And we've had all this well in advance. And we were told to our face that we were okay to go ahead as a short production. That it was, we were told that, it all looked good, that was going to be fine. And that, she would speak to our business representative and make sure everything was cool. Awesome. Great. We felt very reassured by that. She said we could even get it possibly the same day. I went out to my car. Literally before I pulled away from my car, I got a call from our current business representative where we were told that, the other business representative had left and was just tossing things out at the last minute. And that needed all of these specific paperworks in order to proceed and get us some information. And I said, cool, I understand. You're dealing with a lot of stuff last minute. We've already submitted all that paperwork, but here, we'll send it to you. Again, certainly understand. Just keep us informed and let us know. And we were assured then that we would hear back within 24 hours about whether or not we would be approved. And to reiterate, Dr. Aaron sent in the paperwork for, I believe, the third or fourth time, 30 minutes within, that call that I have. Jump to the next day. This morning, we started getting calls from some of our crew being like, look, we haven't heard anything. And we tried to keep people updated as best we can. We said this was going to be the cutoff day. And a lot of our crew was like, look, we have other jobs lined up. And there's a few people that said, like, look, we have to accept a job or not by noon today. And that's as best we can do because we need to know if we can take that job or not. Like that's when they need a response.
And to be clear, by noon on Friday would have been well within the 24-hour period that we had been told the day before by SAG-AFTRA.
And so we got to a point where Aaron and I said, like, look, I don't want to hold these people if they have another job. It's not right and it's not fair to them to do that. So I just started calling. I called several times. Again, every time trying to be understanding. Emailed her a couple times. Called her boss a couple times. I'm just trying to be like, hey, look, this is the urgency. We spoke to you yesterday. This is the information. Like, what can we do? Nothing. And we heard nothing. Not an email response. Not a pickup of the voicemail. Not even like an automated call. Nothing. Aaron and I continually trying to call. Trenton, bless him, drove into SAG-AFTRA and was speaking to people there. We were told that our business representative was in a meeting and then told she wasn't in a meeting, then told she was working from home. We were told that her boss that we had spoken to the day before was out and was unable to take any calls or anything. And so Trenton was trying to, right up to the last minute, talk to somebody. Finally, with I think like 15, 20 minutes to spare before noon, I called our representative's boss one last time. She picked up. And I was like, oh my God, thank heavens, we can talk to somebody. In that call, she kept interrupting me. I was not able to speak during the call. She dead named me which, to be fair, I don't think was her intention. I think she used the name that was my dead name, which is very similar to my actual name. And she wouldn't have had that information. I think it was just because she didn't let me speak and be able to say my name that she didn't hear my name clearly. So I think it was just a mishearing that would have been cleared up if she allowed me to speak. And the fact that it happened to be my dead name was just very unfortunate coincidence, but one that did not make the situation better. And I took it, like, I'm not saying I was angry about it, but it was like, that's fun. It was not great to hear on the line going into all of this. I'm already stressing out a lot. But again, tried to be professional, tried to speak, tried to explain what was going on. This person on the phone call, the SAG-AFTRA representative, asked me to spell the name of my production identities 7 times. Literally, I spelled it 7 times. And I get it's a weird title, IDENTITEAZE. I did it slowly, but she asked me to say it several times. She then asked if I had even submitted an application. Keep in mind, this is the person we spoke to yesterday, who knew we had. And just continually took time and wasted time. She asked me if I submitted the application. So I was like, can I bring my producer Aaron into the call? Aaron jumped into the call. And finally she listened and she's like, oh, are you the production we spoke to yesterday? And I'm like, yes, we are. I was trying to explain that if I had been allowed to speak at this moment. And Aaron, I'm going to give credit to Aaron. She said what needed to be said, which was not anything mean, but just like, hey, we have people waiting on the line. This has been disrespectful. We've been given the runaround. We've done everything we've asked for. We tried to be understanding of the situation. We know it's hectic. We know you're dealing with a lot. We are certainly desperately aware of that, and we want to acknowledge everyone's humanity in this situation. But the fact that we have not been responded to, been ignored, been given the runaround, me being personally disrespected as a person in the call, we needed a response. And we said, we need to know by noon, which was then 15 minutes away, so we can let these people know. And we gave that hard deadline. We even said, and so we gave that hard deadline. She said, we'll see what we can do. And so we hung up. We waited those 10 minutes. We actually waited 5 more. And at that point we had to call it. Because I'll be honest, I was like, can we wait even longer? And, again, I support Erin fully in this. She made the call to say no. There are people who need the job to know. They are literally pinging her as we were texting. So we had to suspend production. Also, as I was filming this very video that you're watching right now, I finally did hear back from our SAG representative several hours after the deadline that they said they would get back to us to tell us that we would have approval, to tell me in this current email that we still don't have approval, and the reason being is that we need to submit 2 more documents that I was expressly told in our call yesterday that I did not need to submit. One of them, for example, being a document saying that if we have nudity in our film, to describe the nudity and talk about how you're going to film it. And what I told her on the phone yesterday, and what I'll tell you now, is there is no nudity, actual or implied, in the entirety of identities. And I was told yesterday on the phone that document was not required. And by the way, the other document is if you have any minors in your film, which we also do not have. So, yeah, very, very frustrating. The consistent miscommunication and the very fact that even several hours after the deadline where they said they would get back to us with approval, we are not getting approval for stuff that we were told we didn't need. And so I want to be very clear about where my anger and frustration and disappointment and pain comes from. The reason I am upset is not necessarily because we had to suspend production. I was kind of emotionally prepared for that being a possibility. If SAG had come back and said, you can't produce during the strike, we're not going to give you permission, or whatever happened, I was emotionally prepared for that. I'm not going to say I'm not disappointed in that aspect. It does sadden me, but I was emotionally prepared for that. I would even be emotionally prepared if people said, we need more time, we can't get it to you on this time. Would have been very frustrated, given that we had our stuff in months ago and followed single rule and tried to be as understanding as possible. I would be very angry and frustrated at that, but I would even understand that. The thing that gets me is the just deafening feeling of how no one cared. The unprofessionalism that I experienced, that my producer experienced, that Trenton experienced, the lack of care towards the cast and crew that we have on this production. I'm gonna be honest, I cannot tell you how heartbroken I am to have gone to this cast and crew who have put in so much passionate work and tell them we have to suspend production. Not because, we screwed up, which we don't. Not because, someone said no, which, we'd understand, even if we would be disappointed. But because people just clearly did not take the time to care. And what hurts even more is that this is going on during the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes. Like I said, Identities is a production that is going to be employing many marginalized people, queer folks, trans folks, BIPOC, women, many people who are amazing and so incredibly talented, but often aren't given as many chances in the Hollywood system. And I'm so proud of them. And has been said by way more articulate and in the know people than myself, the reason that these strikes are going on is not for the high-paid actors, the high-paid writers, the high-paid, people in Hollywood. It is for the working class people, the people who are often the marginalized, who don't get the chances. People are out there on those picket lines right now fighting because they want to have the people who aren't given those chances, who aren't given the chance to be paid well when they even do get a chance, fighting for them to be respected as human beings, to be artists, to pour their heart out and show their creativity and be able to do so safely and comfortably, as they deserve to be. That's why all of this is important. And so to feel that, someone at the SAG-AFTRA offices just didn't care. And now, I'm very glad that a few folks are able to have jobs during the now time that they're not going to be filming Identities, but the predominant amount of those folks that had put off time, had put on their passion, are now not going to have work during that week. And we have made a commitment, by the way, that while we can't pay everyone's bills, if anyone does need, if you're part of the cast and crew of Identities, if you do need help during that week and don't have other work, we were happy to pay your groceries for that week. So we have made that commitment. That's going to come out of our budget for that week. Not to mention the deposit that we put in on the location and all the other stuff. So this is going to cost us money on that front. It is frustrating to me to, see people talk the talk of we are here for the workers. We're defending the workers. We're here to try and fight this system. And then see firsthand how the system doesn't care for the people that it's saying that it's fighting for. SAG-AFTRA, the people that, at least that we experienced, and I'm not saying I'm speaking for all of SAG-AFTRA, this is not SAG-AFTRA as an organization, but the people that we experienced, it was very clear that there was just a lack of care and that the priority was given to places like A24 or, other, not part of this, standard studio system, but still more established big budget things. That during this moment when SAG is talking about, hey, we are trying to stop these big budget productions that don't care for the workers, they take the time to approve, independent productions, but productions that star folks like Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway, done by studios like A24, which I love, by the way, but they are willing to go out of the way to approve those productions. But the smaller budget productions, the ones that will employ people who are trying to make a living at this work, they're the ones that just get flatly ignored to our face. It's not even that we were ignored just in the lost bureaucracy of the system. We were ignored when we were literally talking to someone, when we were on a phone call or in the room with someone. And that the focus is on, being able to get back into that system, to just get back into the system and certainly pay the workers more, but to just keep that system going. Instead of productions like ours, which are trying to do something new with Nebula, which is, a streaming service and a company and a group that is creator owned and is trying to do something new and allowing and empowering the artists themselves to make the decisions. Instead of giving that care and attention and the marginalized folks attention. It wasn't even it was just a lack of care. And that hurts way more and angers me way more. And it is also telling, and this is where I get particularly angry, that SAG is going out and asking influencers like myself to follow guidelines in order to support them, like not doing particular cosplay or doing podcasts about struck work. But when an influencer like myself comes to them and says, hey, I have a project that can support the workers that you say you are advocating for, we get ignored. Whether or not this is the intention, what it feels like is them saying, we want you to support us, but just to be clear, you are beneath us. Whether or not that is the intention, that is definitely the emotional message that has been received. If you're going to talk the talk, you need to walk the walk. And I did not feel that, at least from the people that we dealt with. Who I did feel it from, though, I will be very clear, is from all the artists and creators on Identities, from the folks at Nebula, and especially Trenton, who just did so much. And to wrap out, I want to be very clear. Identities will be filming. We don't know when, we don't know how, but we will make it happen. To the cast and crew of Identities, just know that you all have a place still on the production. You get first dibs on getting your spot back whenever we do end up, hopefully rescheduling for everybody. I cannot wait to see what you do, because I am so proud of you, not just on Identities, but on everything you do, both during this time, on Identities, and after. I am so proud and so excited to see what you do. And to the WGA and SAG-AFTRA, workers on strike right now, again, I reiterate my support, and I have free time now, so I will make a chance to drive up the 3 hours and be on the picket line with you in Los Angeles and stand by you during this time. But I can't help but just be in a moment of sadness and frustration and anger at the situation. And I just needed to express it because I think it's indicative of, how even when people are part of systems saying they're trying to tear it down, these things can still happen. And experiencing firsthand it hurts. And I'm going to feel that hurt for a little bit, but I'm going to pick myself up and keep going. So thank you to everybody for who has worked on this production. Thank you to Nebula. And especially thank you to all of you for listening out there. I am making this movie for you as well. I know it's like Jessie gets to make a movie, but the thing that I have realized as a creator and as an artist, I make things to try to speak to the people who need to hear it. And this film is about being ourselves, even when a system tells us not to, and how our joy is the most beautiful thing, the most subversive thing that we can express. I wanted to share my joy, the joy of the artist I'm working with, and show that to others, to all of you, that joy still can be found even in the darkest of times. And all you have to do it is fight to be yourself, because that is the most radical act. I think we all need to hear that right now. I need to hear it right now. And we go forward, even when it seems hard. Anyways. Love to all of you. Thank you for your support. I also say thank you to the support of my patrons who help pay my bills during this time. Because I'm not making any money from Identities. Both Aaron and I are not making a single dime on anything. We were just paying people. So we're making no money from this. We don't plan on making any money from it. So thank you to my patrons and to you out there for supporting this. I'm going to go buy some beer and curl up and watch some Star Trek. To sort of feel sorry for myself for the night. And then after this weekend, we move forward and keep fighting. And you will see Identities someday. And I will let you know as soon as I know when that is.